everybody, it's Nav, and I just autism and welcome to my channel. So in this video, I'm going to be comparing my two favorite shows, Amphibia versus Star versus the Forces of Evil. So, spoiler warning here. So the first episode is Anna Beast and Best Franz. So in the first part of the episode of Amphibia, Anne is lost in the woods in this world called Amphibia of talking amphibians, and in the woods she meets a frog named Sprig who connects with her over not fitting in, and he lacks responsibility, so they bond, and so he stands up for her against the town, and she's allowed to stay with his family called the Planters, which includes Pollywog named Polly, Sprig, and their grandfather Hop Pop or Hopediah Planter. And the second part of the episode, Best Franz, Anne wants to go to the lake and she misses her friends Sasha and Marcy, but then you find out she doesn't really understand what friendship is, so that they weren't good friends to her, and Sprig tries to help her, make her feel at home by going to the lake with her where they almost get eaten. But they end up bonding over it, and Pop-Up doesn't find out. So the first episode of Star vs. Evil, Star comes to Earth. Star is given her the family heirloom called a magic wand, where she's proven to be irresponsible with it, and she is sent to Earth to try to learn powers there. She meets Mark after a rough start. They become best friends. And in the second part of the episode, you meet Star's other best friend, a ponyhead named Ponyhead, where she is trying to elude this boarding school for wayward princesses, a reformatory school, and she ends up surrendering so that Marco and Star can escape. So yeah, that's the first episode. 1 point for Amphibia. So the story. So here we have Amphibia. After in the first season, the Planters and the people in this town called Wartwood slowly warm up to Anne eventually, and she ends up sticking around for a while because she can't go through the mountains around the Amphibia, so around the valley. So she ends up staying with the Planters, and the townspeople finally accept her as one of their own. She even wins Frog of the Year. Meanwhile, Sasha is staying at Toad Tower, where she is imprisoned, but ends up getting free when she displays her manipulation skills and how they can have effects on people and help you get what you want. So she and the Commander Grime team up to find Anne, and they end up finding Anne, but she ends up sending up to Sasha, and after she realizes Sasha wants to execute Hop Pop for his crimes against the Toad Tower. So yeah, there's that. And then the second season, after they get free of that, Sasha is trying to take over the land of Amphibia herself. And so, but meanwhile, Anne and the Planters travel to Newtopia to meet up with where they find Marcy, their other friend, their other human friend, and try to get this. It turns out they were sent there by a music box that Hop-Up had betrayed Anne by burying, and they end up charging the music box, but with 3 stones, but Anne doesn't fully charge it, so she's still connected to this stone, and she ends up unlocking her powers. More on that later. And they end up back on Earth, where Marcy gets stabbed and Sasha stays behind after she betrays Anne again and tries to take over the kingdom. And you're met with Anne's parents, who are ecstatic to see her and almost have given up on seeing her again. And so they try to return to Amphibia, where Sasha has started a revolution against the king, who turns out to be a bad guy. And they end up returning to Amphibia, where Anne ends up becoming co-commander with Sasha, and they end up defeating the king but Marcy's in trouble, so they end up saving Marcy, stopping the invasion. But then the moon was about to kill them all, so mixed bag. And then that's the final episode, which we will talk about later. So in Star vs. the Force of Evil, so Star and Marco go on these crazy adventures together. Marco grows up during this other dimension where time runs differently, and she ends up discovering this mystery about the Queen of Darkness, Eclipsa, her ancestor, whose baby who fell in love with a monster, but her baby was taken away, and she was replaced by another baby. And so they end up, but then when Eclipse actually ends up sending Star's mom to land of magic, Star doesn't trust her, so then they end up defeating everybody, and Moon starts a revolution against Eclipsa without Star's knowledge, and Star resolves to destroy magic. So that's 2 points for Amphibia because the story is more memorable, obviously. But then Star gets a 1 point for having the best final arc, because I really remember the final arc the best in Star. So that's 2 points for Amphibia, 1 point for Star. We have the main characters. So in Amphibia, we have Anne Boone Choi, who is amazing, the main character. And then we have Sprig, who's awesome. Obadiah, who's hilarious. We have Polly, who's very funny. And then we have Sasha and Marcy as the main characters. And we have Andreas and Commander Grime. So those are all some of the main characters. I don't remember if Commander Grime's actually considered a main character, but it seems like he is later on. So in Star vs. the Force of Evil, Star and Marco are the only two really main characters, the two leads. So that's 2 points for Star for that, because even though I love Anna and the Planters, they have too many main characters for me to say, oh my gosh, I love all the main characters. Especially Sasha and Marcy, I'm not a big fan of them. So, yeah. In romantic relationship, we have Amphibia. The only romantic relationship we see in Amphibia is between Sprig and this girl he has a crush on, Ivy Sundew. But in Star vs. the Force of Evil, we have Star and Marco who fall in love and become best friends, but still keep missing each other and end up in other relationships. But in the end, they get together. And their love for each other unites the dimensions. So, yeah. There's that. So that's 3 points for Star, 2 points total for Amphibia. We have friendships. So in Amphibia, we have 1 point for Amphibia, so that's 3 for them. Talk about how great, I want to talk about how great Anna and Sprig are from showing her what real friendship is to unlocking her power, her blue power, stone powers, which I mentioned earlier, upon his supposed death when the Bad King throws him out the window. How much they love each other. And in Star, you don't really get a whole lot of friendship here outside of Star and Ponyhead, and I think Ponyhead's just too possessive of Star for me to really consider them best friends. Then you have Marco and Tom, but Marco and Tom get jealous of each other a lot, so because of Star, so I'm going to say 1.4 Amphibia. Video of the ending. So this is a hard call because in Star they unite two dimensions with their love for each other, and in Anne and Amphibia, Anne sacrifices herself and they say goodbye forever. So I'm gonna say Star wins this round. So that's, I believe, 4 points for Star, 4 points for Amphibia. We're all tied up. Next we have the emotions of the ending. I think it's actually 3 points for Amphibia. The emotions of the ending. So Amphibia wins this one because even though I cried during Star the first time, I only cried the first time because of the shock. I haven't cried since, but Amphibia gets me every single time because it's so sad. Them saying goodbye forever, moving on, change, the hardest thing of leaving somebody forever. and the sacrifice of Anne is just all beautiful. That's why I consider amphibia greater at the emotions of the ending. The balance of humor and emotion. So amphibia is winning because it gets another point. The balance of humor and emotions. So basically, amphibia is really good at making you laugh 1 minute and cry the next. But then Star doesn't do that as much, so I'm going to say Amphibia wins this one. The mystery. So the mystery of Amphibia is about the Calamity Box and figuring out what King Andros is up to and figuring out how they got to Amphibia and why they're in Amphibia, which we find out at the end of season 2. But you're also trying to figure out why Anne's connected to the stone, why Anne was the chosen champion of the stones. So yeah, other than she was still connected to it, it was just kind of interesting, that mystery. And then in Star we have Eclipse as a big mystery, and figuring out who the real bad guy is in season 4. So I'm going to say Amphibia wins this one. It's now got 6 points. The magic. So Star might win this one because even though the only magic in Amphibia is the music box, and Star is filled with magic, it's really cool because she stars magic. However, I'm still gonna say, even though they're pretty much tied, Amphibia is still a better show than Star. Overall, as much as I love Star and Mucker's relationship in Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Amphibia has greater, bigger themes about love and about friendship and about found family and acceptance and just really deep themes. Plus, it's really funny. It's a lot funnier than Star, even though Star is funny at some points. So that's why Amphibia wins this battle, even though I think the points said otherwise. So yeah, that includes it for my thoughts. They're pretty equal in a lot of respects, but I still think Amphibia is better. And so that concludes it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. Do all the fun stuff. See you next time. Bye.